Psoriatic arthritis symptoms can be unpredictable.
I had joint pain, and I couldn't move like I used to.
I needed relief.
I got Cosentix.
It helped me move better.
Cosentix secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentix. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTIX or Cosentix.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentix.
Coming up on this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast.
I remember them talking about me like I was livestock.
In front of you.
Yeah, like she couldn't be a mother. She doesn't have a mother physique. She doesn't have the motherly quality. You know, she's 35. Where the hell do we put her? She's too old now. You know, agents kind of going, don't know what to do with this piece of meat now. Yes. Like, and that's why I started writing.
Myself and Lisa Harding, the novelist, have quite a lot in common. We both went to Trinity College at the same time, and we were both very involved in the acting group there called Players, around about the same time as well-known Irish actors like Kathy Belton and the famous British actor Dominic West was there at the same time, I remember as well. On top of that, we both went on to work as professional actors ourselves. You'll recognise Lisa if you're a fan of Fair City. But for reasons that you'll hear in this episode, neither of us decided to stay directly on that path. And we both ended up succeeding in different yet still related careers. In Lisa's case, that career has been writing fiction, something that she has excelled at from day one. Her latest novel is set back in those crazy, hazy college days in the early 90s in Dublin. And because I was there at the time myself, I was dying to get stuck into this book and have a chat with Lisa here on the Mario Rosenstock podcast. We talked about people who come from unconventional backgrounds, get to where they are today, even dysfunctional backgrounds, and tend to find each other at college and band together somewhat. Lisa also tells me about falling in love with acting, falling out of love with it again, and why writing is a lot like acting. The craziness of creative people not being able to get mortgages, for example, to buy a home, and like a lot of people who've appeared on this podcast, and lots more.
It was days of wine and roses in my house. They were too young. God love them. So many of them got pregnant, married. That generation didn't have access to contraception, you know, and they were babies having babies. And yeah, it was chaos. So you'd have 3 auditions. First 2, I'd nail it. And the third one, when I knew it was down to me or one other, I'd give it away. I'd literally give it to the other person in the room, in my head. I'm not good enough. She's better than me. I don't deserve it anyway. You know, all that stuff. But I had the chops. And I think sometimes all that insecurity is what makes a great actor. Yeah. But can you live the life? I couldn't.
And of course, that was a part of early 90s lad culture.
It was, yeah.
Where it was permissible, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
To rate girls.
Yeah.
1 out of 10. 8 out of 10? Is she a 6? Is she a 7?
I know, it's pretty appalling, isn't it?
Yeah. But
I often think, Jesus, thank God we didn't have social media. On top of that, like that culture that we were in.
My full chat with Lisa Harding coming right up after this. It's Eurovision week. Oh, and once more, we bummed out. We didn't qualify. The voicemails are on fire.
You've reached the Eurovision Song Contest. Please leave a message.
This is President Michael D. Higgins. It is an absolute outrage that Ireland didn't qualify. I am bringing this to the European Court of Human Rights. To think that a naked man wearing nothing but a mustache, singing about people drinking his milkshake could qualify ahead of our Emmy is ridiculous. Good luck. Goodbye.
This is President Donald J. Trump. Congratulations to the Eurovision for eliminating Ireland. For too long, the Irish have been winning, dominating. They're smart, and we like smart, but they've been ripping off the likes of Israel and UK from winning the competition. From next year, the United States must be allowed into Eurovision. If they're not allowed in the Eurovision, tariffs will be in place immediately to the tune of 1,000%. Thank you.
Guys, it's Louis Walsh here. Can you give us a break? You're breaking our heart every year. We've sent all sorts of acts, happy acts, sad acts, transgender acts, turkeys, transgender turkeys. We can't do it, guys. We've run out of ideas. Put us through the next time, or else we're sending Ronan Keating into Europe. Europe has enough problems. You don't need that.
An exclusive comedy every week on the Mario Rosenstock podcast, as you know. Get in touch with me directly, MarioRosenstock@gmail.com, with your suggestions, constructive criticisms. I get back to them all, I read them all, and thank you very much for getting in touch with me. Please tell one other person about this podcast if you can. And really, thank you to my fantastic new sponsor, Deluxe Bathrooms, Ireland's premium bathroom and tile retailer. If you're dreaming of a bathroom that combines luxury, functionality, style, Deluxe Bathrooms have you covered, and at great prices too. Get yourself down to the nearest Deluxe Bathroom store. You'll find them at the Dundalk Retail Park and Little Island in Cork, or online at deluxebathrooms.ie. And the May Madness sale is currently on. All their ads are currently on Today FM as well. You'll hear Ian Dempsey doing the voiceover for those. And they have a fantastic sale at the moment. May Madness, they're calling it. Save up to 70% store-wide on Europe's biggest brands of bathware, furniture, tiles, accessories, and everything else you need to create the bathroom you've been dreaming about. Okay, time to meet our special guest on this episode, Lisa Harding, actress turned successful author, who I know well back from our college days in the early 90s. So this is a bit of a trip down memory lane for me and maybe for Lisa. Enjoy the chat. So, Lisa Harding, welcome to the Mario Rosenstock podcast.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Mario.
Right. Full disclosure, right? So, Lisa, you and I know each other, and we know each other from having spent time together at a very, very important time in our lives. Mm-hmm. And that was when we first went to college. Mm-hmm. And we went to college in this very special place, privileged place called Trinity College Dublin.
1990s, early 90s, Dublin?
No, early 90s. Mm-hmm. And
you were a star, I remember. Well, you were. You were in Glenroe.
That's right. I was in Glenroe, so I was I was actually getting paid as an actor.
You were. You were a professional actor at the time.
Professional actor, which
we all looked up to you.
Oh my God!
Also, can I say? Do you remember? I remember, like, we didn't do a play together in Players, but because I was a couple of years behind. Yeah. But I remember seeing you in Fool for Love. Do you remember that?
I do. Sam Shepard.
Sam Shepard. Yeah. You were brilliant.
Oh, thank you very much.
But you were.
But Players was a formative period for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And we're going to get onto this in a while. But your new novel, the Wildelings.
Wildelings.
Yes. Tells the story of young people going to this kind of college.
Yes.
And going through these kind of experiences. And we'll come to that in a while, right? Mm-hmm. But first of all, it's evocative of the late 80s and the 1990s. And just reading the first, few couple of dozen pages of the book, right, this morning, it just dawns on me again how different Ireland was in the late 80s and early 90s.
I know, it's extraordinary, isn't it? It was like another country when you think about it. And of course, we don't know when you're living through something. Like, I had no kind of concept that, still abortion was illegal, that homosexuality was illegal when we were in college until 1993. Is that right? I remember the X case in 1993.
Correct. And
we were living in this, I guess, the trauma, like the shadow of the trauma of the Catholic Church and the trauma of the Troubles and all that. But I didn't have a concept of it. Only, did you? Like, I remember...
No.
Except how it played out maybe at home, say. Because that's a broader kind of societal issue, how it all played out in people's homes.
Yeah. Well, I remember going through the gates of Trinity, and you talk about homosexuality and abortion and everything. And I remember one of the first people I saw was a guy called Joseph O'Gorman. And Joseph O'Gorman was that fella with the beard and the three-piece suit who went, "Darlings, everybody over here!" And he was one of those permanent students. He was a student. He had been there for 15 years.
Yeah.
And he was one of those people that's always a student in Trinity. Kind of reminds you of sort of an Irish Stephen Fry. Mm-hmm. And he was a homosexual. And he was...
And Mr. Pussies came out, remember?
Yeah,
it was amazing.
That's right.
It was so glittering and exciting.
Yeah.
And we were kind of, I think, at the front. Like, we were kind of breaking the mould there, weren't we?
Well, it was a very different society because Ireland was still, in many respects, coming out of a monochrome world.
Yeah.
As you say, Catholic dominated, boring, not much to do.
Shame.
Quite a lot of shame.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of cover-ups. There was a lot of financial cover-ups. There were a lot of, the Magdalene laundries, the mothers and boys' home.
Yeah.
The tribunals. A lot was hush-hush. And this place we entered in was kind of a world of colour. And a world of privilege.
Yes.
And a world of I wouldn't say wealth, but there were wealthy people there, but there were also poor people there. Who
I didn't come from wealth.
Either did I.
Yeah, I know.
So I would have described myself as poor middle class.
Yeah, same.
You know, in other words, my family would have been somehow by hook or by crook well educated.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any money.
I had to waitress through college.
Yeah.
And I was able to pay my rent that way, which is extraordinary when you think about it now. Do you know? But yeah, you're right. It was Technicolor. And when I was looking back, because I started to write this coming out of COVID, my head was quite, in quite a dark place. I lived alone. But I remember like thinking, I need to write something that's just going to uplift me a little bit, because everything else I've written's been very intense and dark. But then this book actually does have that dark kind of undercurrent. And I was tapping into maybe the things that we didn't discuss, and how this idea that you and I were talking about it earlier, about how like attracts like, and groups of us were attracted to each other, coming from similar backgrounds, kind of playing out similar patterns maybe.
And possibly even fantasies.
Damaging each other.
Yeah, and damaging each other, but also playing out fantasies as well, and role playing, and this idea of going to acting classes and all
wanting
this sort
to be
of stuff.
somebody else.
Yeah, and wanting to hide behind characters and experiment with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even in one of the early phases of your book this book, that you described Freshers Week.
Yeah.
And going in as a pretty girl from school who now is in her first week of Freshers Week, and all these amazing stalls offering you all these different things you could do. And I remember you saying then that your character is ranked one of the hottest fillies.
No, the character
fillies.
is.
The character's one of the hottest fillies in the thing.
Do you remember that? Wasn't that a thing?
I do. That was a thing.
A thing.
And of course, that was a part of early 90s lad culture.
It was, yeah.
Where it was permissible, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
To rate girls.
Yeah.
1 out of 10. 8 out of 10? Is she a 6? Is she a 7? And this was just like,
I know, it's pretty appalling, isn't it?
Yeah, but
I often think, Jesus, thank God we didn't have social media on top of that, that culture that we were in. But yeah, I was kind of looking back going, memory's a funny thing because some of it's quite fuzzy. Mm-hmm. And also it's a novel. So I allowed myself some imagination and kind of heightened sensory, experiences when I was writing. But that did happen, didn't it?
It's clear that the character that you write, the protagonist, Jessica, comes from a kind of a bit of an unstable background. Mm-hmm. I mean, I came from a very unstable background, and that character then plays itself out in college, and I bounce off all sorts of people, and you meet all sorts of new people, and you drink excessively, and
we did all that.
You did all that, and so you become the person you are. But did you come from a kind of a rickety background?
All of us, I think, like what I was interested in exploring with this book is this, exactly what you're saying, this notion that we kind of find each other. So there was this, I write about this vibrational frequency that we kind of shared. Like you and I, we would have been at the same parties, we would have known the same people. And then later in life, you kind of say, wow, like, were you broken home? Were you I mean, I've heard you speak so eloquently about your parents and I guess the pain of them just not being right for each other. And my parents, I can say that, with no blame, because you do that, but it was days of wine and roses in my house. It was they were too young. They were all so young. They didn't, God love them. So many of them got pregnant, married. That generation didn't have access to contraception, and they were babies having babies. And there was a bit of, there was chaos. But I think a lot of us, I think it was cultural.
That is true. There was babies having babies. I mean, my mother was 22 when she had me.
Yeah, my mum was 22.
And she was pretty much a young actress in London.
Oh, was she?
And
my dad had to give up college, bless him.
Yeah.
Like he was studying philosophy, dreamer.
Yeah, and this doesn't really happen these days much anymore,
No.
I mean, like, I'm a typical example of a kind of in age terms, I got married when I was 30. And my wife was 26, which was just about, I suppose, statistically bang on for my age. But nowadays, people are getting married more 37, 38.
Yeah, having babies in their 40s.
And having babies in their 40s and even later sometimes, yeah? So that has utterly changed. It's almost 20 years of a difference.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, my mother was 22 and it was babies having babies.
But there was a lot of thwarted lives, like, that generation. And like, sure, I even remember my mum not being allowed work. Remember that? It was crazy. So they were stuck at home in suburbia with babies. Like
Yeah.
sometimes my mum was very talented, she was very creative, and she didn't get an outlet. You know, so of course there was crazy going on at home. But yeah.
So as I said, then you and I kind of met in college, and I did a lot of acting, and you did some acting as well. And then you went on to become an actress, and you worked in like stage and plays and film and theatre and Fair City as well. Fair City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I remember your character? Was your character gay in Fair City?
Yeah, she was the first.
Okay, because I was.
Yeah. So that was when I was 37. So that was actually at the tail end of my career.
Right.
To be fair. Like, I didn't have the glittering career that I wanted. It all started out quite well. You know, the ingenue, kind of doing lots of theatre, Gate the Abbey, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Went to London, all looking well. But I was like you've spoken about, I was so craven. Like, I was looking for attention, but I was so insecure. And it's brutal. And it's particularly brutal on a young woman. That gaze.
I can imagine.
You know, and you're lumped into the kind of the pretty girl ingenue thing, and there's so many of us, and they used to put us all in a room together in London. And I had this internal like monologue that was pretty critical, pretty vicious. But I could fight to I remember that it was so weird. I could fight to a certain point for a part. Like, I'd go in the beginning, say you'd have 3 auditions. First 2, I'd nail it. And the third one, when I knew it was down to me or one other, I'd give it away. And it was always, I'd literally give it to the other person in the room, in my head. I'm not good enough. You know, she's better than me. I don't deserve it anyway. You know, all that stuff. So that was really a tough thing. I remember going out with someone at the time who was an actor who said, I go into the room and I'm like, they'd be lucky to have me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh God, I wish I could get a bit of that, but I didn't have that. But I had the chops. And I think sometimes all that insecurity is what makes a great actor.
Yeah.
But can you live the life? I couldn't.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I couldn't.
Yeah. And just for what it's worth, either could I.
Right,
and the reason for that is because I wanted so much to do things.
Yes.
And as an actor, you have no power to do anything.
No control.
You are completely at the whim of somebody else's pen.
Yeah.
And also somebody else's phone.
Yeah.
And somebody else's a thought process about you. And maybe a group of other people.
Yeah.
In other words, 2 people in the room might think you're fantastic.
Yeah.
And 2 people might think you're not the... And,
You
know, so you just have no
God,
control.
do you remember those days of just giving your little heart on a platter in the audition and walking away thinking, not even hearing, they wouldn't even pick up the phone and say, thank you for coming, you did a great job, or you'd get penciled and then nothing.
Absolutely
Yeah,
extraordinary.
no, it is.
Not hearing, getting ghosted.
Getting ghosted, a lot of getting ghosted.
By putting throwing your heart, lungs, your liver, everything, spleen on the page, and they wouldn't even get back to you.
No, so vulnerable.
But as you say, much, much worse for a woman.
I don't know. I mean, I guess
I think so because of I think so because of
the gaze.
Well, the gaze, but also the GAZE, but also the
pressure.
No, but the emphasis on the physical appearance.
Yeah. I guess so.
You know, and also the age.
But you remember that, like, if you're lumped into a certain category, so you were either the character actor or the lead or in my case, the ingenue, and then you reach a certain age and you can't be the ingenue anymore, but they used to say things. I remember them talking about me like I was livestock.
In front of you.
Yeah, like, oh, she couldn't be a mother. She doesn't have a mother physique. She doesn't have the motherly quality. You know, she's 35. Where the hell do we put her? She's too old now. You know, agents kind of going, don't know what to do with this piece of meat now. Like, and that's why I started writing.
Yeah. And I'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Would you often then be in auditions and you'd see like 5 other Lisas?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And of course, when I went to London, because here I was a little bit different, because my second name is Harding. So my dad's family is they're from England. I don't know much about them, to be honest, but I would get the kind of drawing room part here, do you know? But then when I went to London, I was like, sure, all the blonde, blue-eyed, you know, girls walking around, and I wasn't. And then I couldn't be cast as the Irish. They didn't see me as Irish enough.
Yeah.
So I was really a little bit lost there.
Yeah.
I found London hard.
Right.
Yeah, I really did.
Wow. So
the lost years, I call them.
Yes, the lost years. Okay. All right. And so a bit like me, then the acting thing kind of wasn't giving you what you wanted. In fact, it turned you off at the end, physically and emotionally. It hurt.
Yeah.
But you turned to writing.
Yeah.
Why and how?
Yeah.
How?
So It was when I was about 35. My career was kind of going to shit. I was sometimes acting, but not doing stuff I wanted to do. I was speaking lines and not believing them. And I just started to write plays, and I shocked myself because I have a kind of a biting roar when I write, and I was always a sweet girl, or certainly that's how I presented to the world. That was the mask that I always wore, the sweet little ingenue, that girl, and I perfected that one. But then when I started to write, I was like on the page, I was like, this is scaring me.
Stuff would come out.
Oh my God.
And you were there, this is a different side to me that I didn't even recognise.
No, and as an actor I always wanted to get to play those parts, but no one would ever cast me. I wanted to be Lady M, but they were like, oh no, you're Ophelia,
Yeah.
But anyway, and then I remember sending out a play I wrote like cold in London to various theatres and getting invited to the National Theatre in London, and it was workshopped, and then they commissioned me, and then I thought, oh, I actually can do this. Now I was quite old, 35 to 37 I was playing with writing, and loved it. And it was the power as well, like what you're describing, the thing you had early on. I think you had agency, right? You know, to do your own thing, to generate your own work, to
Correct,
get up in the morning.
I mean, what I decided to do was, I decided to write every character for myself.
Yeah.
I decided to play every character in Irish national life, and I decided I had a gift for mimicry, and I went, what am I doing? Just start writing all these characters.
Yeah.
And I couldn't write at the beginning actually, but I just, by sheer practice, it's a craft. You can learn to write. And I just went, I'm going to create every character for myself, and I'm going to imagine all the best things I could possibly say in that character, and I'm just going to write them down.
But you had a lot of fun, didn't you?
Well, a tremendous amount of fun doing that.
Fun, yeah.
Tremendous, because as you say, it's agency, it's power.
Yeah.
So the pen in your hand suddenly turned into, I can make this do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I can cast myself tomorrow
Yeah.
as anybody I want, anywhere I want, doing anything I want. So I began to see it as a magic wand. And and so you found agency.
I feel maybe
through this
with
writing.
what you did, it was more conscious. With me, it was like when I'd sit down to write, I'd never know what would come up. But I found that I was really brave and raw on the page in the way I never could be in life. Do you know? I could never, that's why I've never been a journalist or somebody who kind of espouses my opinion publicly. That's why I went into fiction, and that's why I was an actress, I think, because you can still hide in fiction, but there's a lot of there is a lot of truth, I guess, that comes out on the page, and anger and etc. Energy and that voice that just I would have suppressed.
Okay, so you were writing some plays.
I was.
And then?
I was writing plays. Oh yeah, and then when I turned 40, I moved back to Dublin and did an MPhil in creative writing at Trinity, and started to write monologues there and short stories. And then, shortly after that, I think when I was 42, I got my first novel published. So in the last decade, 3, which is fine for me. I'm not a commercial writer. I'm not banging them out. I take my time. But my agent was saying recently, please do not take as long as you know.
Bang them out, please.
Please.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Can you call your next one Banging Them Out?
No, I can't bang them out. Bang them out.
Banging them out. Her new novel, Banging It Out.
No, maybe.
Yeah.
It's quite catchy.
Yeah.
Mario?
But, it must have been as well quite wistful returning to Trinity to do an MPhil when you're 40 years of age. You must have walked through the cobblestones and the buildings and the quadrants.
I felt
and
old.
Wow.
I did, I did.
Yeah, but
I did, very much.
Yeah,
I did. And there were a lot of young 20-somethings in the masters. But it was, I did feel old, but I also felt, I don't know, there was a certain kind of wisdom, and I loved the study. I loved the study this time, whereas the first time I was in Trinity, I mean, I went in doing European studies, and I think you did politics and
I did.
But I left European studies because it was far too much hard work in second year, and I did history and French so as I could do loads of players. Yeah.
That's me too. That's exactly what I did.
Oh, did you?
That's exactly what I did. I did a degree where I figured I could just scrape by.
Okay.
And I did 15 plays in 4 years. And pretty much all of them were the lead role as well.
Yeah.
So
I
I was learning so many lines and going to so many rehearsals, and I had to study and repeat the exams every year at the end nearly to get through the year.
You were young when you kind of made the segue away from acting, weren't you?
Yeah,
Much
so
younger than
I
me.
was 26, 27.
And did you just decide this is kind of a mug's game, or what did you?
I decided I'm just going to keep the phone on. And if the phone rings, I'll answer it. But otherwise, I'm out of here. I'm getting a pen and paper and taxi, and I'm heading into this new radio station called Radio Ireland.
Yeah.
And I'm going to absolutely burn the place up as fast as I can, if I can. And I was lucky as well that Ian Dempsey was starting this whole journey he came on, and it turned into me and him together, and we began.
And it was brave.
25 years together. Well, I really had no option at the time. I really had no option. I was somebody who had so much energy, like the energy was just impossible to contain.
Yes.
And the energy would have been really quickly turned to drink and drugs and destruction. Because everybody learns through their life little stories about themselves if you're lucky, and little lessons. And one of the lessons I learned is that if I wasn't tied to discipline, I would have destroyed myself. So I tied myself like a horse, throwing a big reins around the fence. To a thing called
discipline. To have that awareness, like so.
It was more instinctive than awareness.
Okay.
It was just I knew that I was going to destroy myself if I didn't, because I had so much energy.
Yeah.
And the energy was going to be displaced.
I wrote my last book, Bright Burning Things, was about a kind of maternal alcoholism, but it was about an actress who becomes a mum, though kind of unwillingly. But it was about what happens when the creative charge is stopped, like. Where does it go? Because it's like wild horses, isn't it? Like if you're creative and you can't express it, it's so destructive.
And not only destructive, it's bitter.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, because you're not going to be happy destructive. You're going to be very unhappy destructive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Psoriatic arthritis symptoms can be unpredictable.
I had joint pain, and I couldn't move like I used to.
I needed relief.
I got Cosentix.
It helped me move better.
Cosentix secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentix. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTIX or Cosentix.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentix.
Everybody sleeps, but no two people sleep alike. At Coop Sleep Goods, we celebrate the way you sleep differently. We believe everyone deserves a great night's sleep with their own pillow. And the adjustable, customizable Coop pillow makes it easy. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or even a starfish, we've got the perfect pillow for you. Crafted with our innovative memory foam and microfiber fill, our hypoallergenic pillows adjust to you, not the other way around. Just tailor the fill for the perfect fit. Add some in, take some out, until your pillow's just right for you. See why luxury hotels and spas worldwide feature Coop Sleep Goods, and why we have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. With our 100-night risk-free trial, you've got nothing to lose, except those sleepless nights. Get 25% off your first order when you visit coopsleepgoods.com/comedy. That's COOP sleepgoods.com/comedy.
Now, was your first book Harvesting?
It was, yeah.
And Harvesting. So tell me the subject matter of harvesting and how you got into that. I mean, I know it myself, but it sounds mad.
It's mad. You're right, it's mad, because usually people go from the personal in their first book, then perhaps more push the subject matter out to the political, but I did the opposite. Well, I maybe, Mario, is still that sense of like, I don't really want to own me or my story, maybe, you know, and I was still a little bit like, oh, do I have the chops to do this? Who am I to be a writer? I had a lot of that, like, I'm no Anna Enright, you know, I had a lot of that going on in my head. We've such brilliant writers in this country. So, but I was involved in a campaign to against sex trafficking in Dublin and it was of minors, and the Body Shop invited me in. God, it's a long time ago, must be 13 years ago, to just read these monologues of first-hand experiences. And I was, as you would be, I mean, I was devastated and so disturbed, and I just started to write monologues. I thought, I'm going to write a play. We need to know about this. Do you know, we need to know about the level of sexual trauma that's happening in our country now. I couldn't believe it. Destination point for traffickers, how many people visit, you know, how much of it is controlled by the criminal world. So I think, yeah, I mean, it took me over that topic. That was an easy book to write because that wrote itself in 9 months.
And how did you research it?
Well, so I was helping out with Ruama at the time.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to a lot of NGOs. I had the Children's Rights Alliance gave me loads of statistics, and so I had all the statistics. I spoke to like an NGO in Ruama, in CCF Moldova, so there was a lot of research. But there was something about, like, it's a weird thing to talk about, but channeling the pulse of trauma, whatever it is, I could do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know...
Sorry, what is channeling the pulse of trauma? What do you mean by that?
But you know what I mean. I mean, I think it's like, even if it's not something that you have acknowledged to yourself, but if you're carrying, whether it's generational or whatever, but if you're carrying trauma in your body somewhere and you sit down to write, it kind of, it'll express itself.
It'll be channeled, yeah.
Yeah. So... that kind of surprised me because I was like, wow, I really get this. I somehow, thank God it was never my direct experience. And I felt worried about that. I thought, who am I to write about this? But it needed to be. And when you're so traumatized, I think, like, it's very difficult for somebody in that experience to give voice. And I gave it a literary kind of treatment, which meant a lot of care and attention to the language and to the characters and to the world and to the girls. And I made, you know, they were my younger sisters, basically. That's how I felt when I was writing it.
How long did it take you to write it?
That was a quick one. That was 9 months. Once I allowed myself settle into it, I was like, that just burst out of me. Yeah. But initially I thought it was going to be a play. Mm-hmm. And then I just I let the form kind of evolve.
Yeah.
And then
is that the one that's being further developed now?
Well, it was. Yeah. So, you know these stories. So it was in development for ages. Endless, BFI, blah, blah, blah. And then I wrote 11 drafts, and then COVID came, and then the whole thing kind of collapsed, and we haven't reignited it. So I don't know what's going to happen.
This happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. You talked about they're channeling the trauma, which is there anybody in life that doesn't have trauma?
I don't think so. Oh, I don't know, Mario, because we can only speak from like our own experience, and it's a word that's bandied around way too much.
But you know the way we hear, for example, somebody say to somebody else, I don't know why I'm doing a Tommy Tiernan impression when I say this, but I feel as if you're carrying, do you know, a lot of trauma, right? I don't know. He's the person that came into my mind for saying that sentence, right?
Yeah, he gets it out of everyone.
He does. Feel like, but I kind of ask myself, who isn't carrying trauma?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
fair point.
You know, I mean, if you read Freud and everything, right? You see the act of being birthed, crawling through the cervix on your way to the world is a huge act of trauma.
Absolutely.
Not only for the baby, but for the mother.
Yeah.
So we're traumatized from the very beginning, anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, there's varying degrees, and of course there's nothing worse or more traumatic than being trafficked for, you know, sex. So when you talk about trauma, you know, there are various degrees, and of course, like, I was writing that and doing research into that world and thinking, well, this is legitimately trauma, but it is bandied around a lot now.
You did some work as well with Pavey Point, is that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, Pavey, is it?
Pavey Point.
Yeah. I just did I did a project there. That was wonderful. It was they were talking about their own voices and their own experiences. So it's the Irish Traveller experience, and they were an incredible group of people, and so funny, so witty. It's such brilliant storytellers. I have never, you know, when you like, I was listening to some of the women talk and the way they evoke nature. They were so close to nature and the land and I guess there's trauma there.
Yeah,
no
definitely.
doubt.
Well, one of the if any of the listeners, including yourself, Lisa, ever wants to go back and listen to one of my podcasts, it's with a fellow called Martin Beans Ward. And Martin Beans, Beanz. Beans is a very funny comedian, and he's also from the travelling community, right? But he was one of the first guests on this podcast series, and it's a very funny encounter between me and him. Not because it's especially funny; it's actually a bit awkward at times, and it has a special type of awkwardness, the meeting, because in the interview you can clearly hear me trying to, if you like, overcompensate for the fact that I'm talking to a traveller. And he calls me out on it.
Does he?
He says, Mario, you don't need to do this. And I went, do what?
Yeah.
Do what, my good friend? Do what, my completely normal good friend who's... And he said, Mario, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do the pretend it's... I'm the travel... There's the elephant in the room thing, you know. What elephant? What room?
Yeah.
And it was because Martin is gay and he's a traveller.
Yeah.
And he's a comedian.
Openly.
Gay, traveller, comedian.
Wow, yeah.
Gay, traveller, comedian.
Amazing.
Right?
Listen to that. Yeah.
You know, and so, but it's very funny because it actually has... And he breaks through me.
Totally his own person.
No, because he smashes through me.
Yeah, yeah.
And he smashes through me to the extent that I then relax during the interview.
Yeah.
And after I relax, I then, because you can't allow me to relax, because then I come full circle and I end up taking the piss out of him then. So, and that is when you know you've got a decent kind of, or an exchange with somebody, when you can be honestly just frank with each other. But really, he started it. He was frank with me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was...
Well, I think, my experience there was that a lot of the women felt desperately sorry for me because I don't have children and I don't have a husband. There was I remember thinking, oh God, my life is so sad. You know, I was like, I have my dog and I write books. but you know, so I know what you mean.
So when I was in Trinity and I first met you, right?
Yeah.
You were very glamorous and are very glamorous. Very glamorous. Yeah. Very beautiful. Very desirable. You used to wear lovely black fur coats and gorgeous, skirts
Jenny
and
Vander
everything.
stuff. Yeah,
really. And you came across as very middle class. I mean, you are middle class, but you came across as kind of very like one of those girls you'd see in suburban middle class Dublin, and you're in Trinity, right? But actually, you're not really like that at all. I would probably more point I'm making is, why would you be drawn to stories? Why do you think you're drawn to stories where that feature a lot of trauma, that feature people who have been, if you like, I don't know, downtrodden is the word, but dispossessed,
alienated.
Yes. What draws you to these?
The dispossessed voice. It's interesting, isn't it? Because that was I remember when I went back to study and do the MPhil, my tutor, Carlo Gabler, who's Edna's son.
Yes.
Amazing man, brought me into the room and said he had read all my short stories that I had kind of collated that year, and he said, "Are you okay?"
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm bubbly and I'm like, I'm all put together. So it's an interesting one. The dissociated voice, actually. Yeah. That comes out in my writing a lot, and people on the margins. You're right. I don't know, Mario. You tell me. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've always been, but even when I was young, I remember like reading Anne Enright really young.
Yes.
Do you remember The Gathering and her work, and just and kind of like vibrating at a level with her and thinking, I feel this. Like I just get this. Do you know? I didn't have the language.
Do you watch films?
I do watch films.
Are you drawn to any particular types of films?
Well, at the moment, not anymore. I don't feed myself the dark stuff as much as I would have. I don't want to. Like, you have to.
It's already there.
It's all there.
Pouring out of you.
Yeah, and I fed it. I fed it to myself. I remember during COVID watching Squid Game and reading I went back and started reading all these French absurdists and thinking, what am I doing to my head, and Les Enfants Terribles and all this kind of stuff. And of course, no wonder it's a dark version of Trinity that came out on the page.
Yeah.
Because Trinity wasn't, for us, a dark place. It was a pretty fabulous place. There were undercurrents, weren't there? But I think when I went back to write about it, I tapped into that and made those overt.
Yeah. It's well, just back to Trinity there. It's a strange place in many respects. I mean, it's a city university. It's a university, a main university of Ireland, smack bang in the middle of the city, which is very unusual. Normally, universities are outside in the suburbs. And again, it features just such a different... Ireland's class society and kind of microcosm. I mean, people who are outside of Trinity think only posh people go there, but when you get in there, you see that there are all sorts of people who go there. And I remember Joe Duffy always not boasting, but going, "Oh, the number 63 from Ballyfermot down to Trinity College, and I was the worst one on the trade union, the unions and all that." And he was a student union leader in Trinity and all that. So there are all sorts of people in Trinity. Fascinating place. So. Okay.
And a beautiful place. Like, I wanted to go there because it was so beautiful, like aesthetically. I remember, living in suburban Dublin on one of those estates thinking, I want to go to that beautiful place.
Yeah. So, and it says that in your book. You're one of a number of artists I've had on the podcast who've expressed anger at the rental society in Ireland, the rental situation in Ireland, and buying a house, etc. I remember having Mark O'Halloran, the actor, on my podcast not so long ago. And, Mark O'Halloran is
brilliant.
a tremendous actor and a brilliant writer. So,
brilliant.
Brilliant writer, brilliant playwright, brilliant film writer, brilliant...
Theatre maker, everything,
and a superb actor. And I remember having him on my podcast and he was telling me, Mario, I've just been turned down by everybody for trying to get a house. And I work all the time and I get paid well. And, but anyway, I worked with him on a film last month and... he actually said, Mario, I got a house. I think it was after your podcast. But anyway, you've had the same kind of
and
experience as a person who is a successful artist who just can't buy a house.
No, I can't buy a house. I still can't buy a house, Mario.
Do you mind explaining to me what the process there is?
But I can't get a mortgage.
Well, why not? What did they say?
Because my income, to be fair, now as a writer, if you look at my last 10 years, so I might burrow away for 2 to 3 years. So it's I don't get paid to write. And then you might have one good year and then it drops and then one good year. So I'm not a sure bet. Also, I think...
How do they tell you that? Do they tell you, I'm sorry, we refuse you a mortgage because, to be honest with you, you're not a sure bet? Or do they actually say to you, how do they put it to you?
Well, to be fair...
You're not earning enough.
Yeah, no, it's more the lack of kind of certainty, and then also for an artist, or not an artist, not just an artist, but a self-employed person, to take on a mortgage when you don't know what money is coming. And as I'm getting older, I'm kind of like, do I want to? I mean, I've been thinking about moving somewhere out of Dublin for ages, but my partner's in Dublin now, so. And even trying to buy in Ireland now, anywhere anywhere lovely is kind of insane, but it's madness, isn't it? I mean, it's not just me; it's the whole country is affected.
It is affected, but also I think I feel particularly sorry for people in the artistic sphere.
Okay.
I mean, I remember David Kitt saying he just had to move out of Ireland altogether because he couldn't afford even to rent here.
Yeah.
And so what happens then is you end up driving out the heart and soul of our community. People who look at our community and make plays, do acting, sing songs, and then, all you're left with is tech bros.
Sure. But you remember when we were in college, we could all rent all over the place, like Raglan Road, beautiful places full of artists and students. And
again, that was the difference living in the 1990s.
Yeah.
I remember everybody had these glamorous flats that before.
Absolutely. Well, full of mould, but full
of mould, but I remember you say, we head up to her house tonight, and it's like 4 girls living in a 4-bedroom apartment.
I know.
In Dillier Street or something.
Amazing place.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, I don't even feel equipped to talk about it because it just feels so beyond me at the moment.
Okay, well, we need you writing as many books as you can after this podcast.
No, I'll keep going.
To get a house, right?
Yeah.
So this book is called The Wildelings.
Do you want to know why?
I would say it's Oscar Wilde, and I would say it's a microcosm of Trinity College.
Yeah.
And because the way you describe it, it's like the quadrants
and I love
the cobblestones.
those words, yearlings and saplings. And I was thinking about, these little young creatures kind of coming and trying to become their own people.
I'll give you my favourite ling. I'll give you my favourite
one.
Changeling.
Oh, changeling.
Beautiful.
Beautiful word. And that's in the book, actually, yeah.
Fledglings.
Great words, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's such a vulnerability to it.
There are, yeah.
And it's funny because people are saying, my main character is very unlikable. And people say, oh, you're right, these really toxic women. And I'm thinking, do I? Like, she's 18. Like, she's just doing what she knows from her home. But she does kind of pinch and kick and pull and like when she's really young. And her way of loving is really skewed. And it's all about possession and jealousy and, you know, she just has no boundaries. She doesn't know where she begins and the other person ends and all that. So I don't see that as toxic behaviour. But other people have put that label onto her and some of my female characters. And I'm thinking, but aren't they fascinating? Isn't it fascinating to watch people behaving badly and in ways that they can't control?
And the Wildelings. So when you wrote the book, did you borrow, obviously borrowing from memory, and how autobiographical, if any of that was that?
Those characters aren't, I mean, you'll know from reading it, they didn't exist, thank God. It's very dark. Like there's a central character in there who's a toxic, manipulative guy who preys on all this group's insecurities, and then he writes about it and he becomes famous. So I was interested again in like the genesis of creativity and do we, you know, about being vampiric, and how that shard of glass in the heart that they say you have to be a really great writer. I don't know. I guess there's some truth to that. But what
does that mean, the shard of glass, to be a great writer?
Well, you know, that you can't be sentimental and you can't be concerned when you sit down with the page about being kind. And I mean, some readers need characters that are relatable, like in inverted commas. I don't read for a best friend. I don't read for cozy fiction. I actually not into it at all, but I love Succession and I love The White Lotus, and like I do like a bit of bite, and I like humour. I love humour. Like actually, the older I get, I think my work is becoming kind of darkly funny.
It's hugely evocative of the time we were in. Hugely evocative. I mean, I could see the Doc Marten boots on the girls.
I know, wasn't it brilliant?
You know,
brilliant.
I could see the sort of shaggy hair. I could see
yeah.
You know, I could
brilliant.
see.
We didn't have any H&M.
I could see the arc of the cigarette smoke.
That's amazing.
Now, after this, you're on your fourth one already. Is that right?
Yeah, just started.
And what's that an exploration of? What's that?
That's kind of at the moment. So I don't know yet, because the truth is, when I sit down, I don't know where it's going to go.
Really?
Oh yeah, I haven't a clue. Don't know.
Really?
Yeah. So it might be a theme or a character, but again,
so you might just have a character in your mind.
Yeah.
And see where that character goes.
Yeah.
So let's say the character is called Leanne.
Yeah.
You might just go write down with a piece of paper and see what that character does that day, where it goes.
Yeah, haven't a clue.
Really?
And like some writers, as you know, will plot and they'll know their ending before they start, and they'll but I haven't a clue. It's a fog. I don't know what I'm doing. And I create messes, and I actually take too long to write a book.
I love that.
Financially, I take too long to write a book.
I adore that. But what you're saying there is you allow the gods of creativity to kind of take over, and I don't mean that in a pretentious way. I mean, like Keith, it is, but I was in Trinity, for God's sake. What do you expect? I'm a wildling, you know.
He's a wildling.
Keith Richards, Keith, how do you Mick Jagger write the songs? He went, man, you know, we don't write the songs, man. The songs are already there, man.
Amazing.
You just got to reach out and find them. They're all dripping from the branches, man. They're in the ether.
Yeah.
And what he says
can
is
say that if you're Keith
what
Richards,
else? But
right?
what he says is totally true.
Yeah.
To be creative, you have to
open up.
Tune in.
You have to tune in and you have to tune out.
It's there.
I also think you have to tune out. It's a little bit like, for me, when I know I'm writing well, I feel a little bit drunk, or I feel a little bit like I'm out of my skin. I feel like my conscious faculty isn't there. I don't know if you ever feel that.
That's
you know, that amazing feeling when you're like, and you get the buzz. Like sometimes I get heat, so it's a little bit like performative. Like, because I get this blushing thing. I always got it when I was young, and I can get it when I'm writing well. And I'm like, oh, this is like, there's something going on here. And then a lot of the time it's not like that. It's like just drawing blood from a stone or whatever. And,
what you're describing there is a sense of being in the flow, a state of flow.
It
and
is,
a sense of deep concentration, perhaps.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like concentration, but it feels like something else. It feels like you've opened a portal to something.
You're operating slightly outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's being kind of on automatic. That's a lovely thing to
It's an amazing
experience.
thing. It's a little bit like, I love the whole shaman kind of experience, that this experience of this idea of like channeling other worlds.
Yeah.
The world of the imagination and allowing yourself portals, and a lot of great writers would have taken drugs, and I understand that, but I feel like I don't need to for some reason.
No, you're talking about something very interesting.
I kind of do tap into a certain madness in me.
Yeah.
And And I am a brave, I would say, provocative writer on the page. And as I say, not so much in real life. But...
Yeah. Well, they're two different things.
There, yeah.
Moncon McGann, who's been on this podcast, is very interesting on the idea that we're very, very, very close to all the ulterior worlds that are around us. You know, the world of the ghosts, the world of the fairies.
Fairies, I love the fairies.
And all this,
I've always loved.
They're very, very close to us. And
it's,
you know, yeah, and that's very, very close to us.
They are.
You know,
you let it in.
Yeah, let it in. Let it in, man.
Yeah, madness.
Fantastic. Lisa, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure not only talking to you, but also seeing you again after so many years. We bumped into each other here in this studio a few years ago.
Yes, we did.
But before that, it was back in the early 90s in Trinity.
It's mad, isn't it? Lovely to see you.
And lovely to see you. Yeah. And good luck with the book. And I'm going to continue with it.
Great.
And I'll try and pass on some thoughts if I can.
Great. Thanks.
Lisa, thanks a million.
Bye, Mario.
And my special thanks to Lisa Harding, an old friend from Trinity College, for coming in and talking to me on the podcast. Also, my thanks to Deluxe Bathrooms. Don't forget, their Main Madness sale is now on. Get them at deluxebathrooms.ie or get them at Dundalk Retail Park or Little Island in Cork. In person if you walk in. Thanks to Deluxe Bathrooms. I'll see you at the same time, same place next week. Thanks for listening, folks.
Psoriatic arthritis symptoms can be unpredictable.
I had joint pain, and I couldn't move like I used to.
I needed relief.
I got Cosentix.
It helped me move better.
Cosentix secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentix. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTIX or Cosentix.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentix.